I'm sharing this exactly the way my friend Kayla Price recorded it, cleaned only for background hiss. Kayla's a straight nursing student who stalks freight on the overnight shift at a 24-hour supercenter off I-75 in southeast Kentucky. The receiving dock sits at the rear of the store, shielded from the main parking lot by dumpsters and a strip of second-growth woods. Employees joke about a fiberglass torso someone dumped there years ago. They call it the back dock mannequin. Local legend says if the dummy faces the bay doors at clock in, you'll have an easy night. She called Marcus on the handheld static. She tried Earl's frequency static again. She found Marcus lying face down behind banana boxes, wrists zip-tied, a rag jammed beneath his jaw. He was breathing but woozy. After cutting him free with a box knife she kept in her apron, he whispered that two men in warehouse jackets had asked where the pill cage keys were, then cracked him with a pipe when he hesitated. They'd taken his badge and radio and walked off. Marcus murmured into the panic phone. Its confirmation beep was barely audible. The dock lights were still off. Outside, the floodlights flared again. They slammed the door and punched the red emergency stop. The overhead motor wheezed and locked. In the main aisle, the partners sprinted past with a duffel of pill bottles. They'd knocked over 2 stores in Tennessee and one in West Virginia that same month. The plastic mannequin served double-duty camera blocking props and psychological leverage. Corporate surveillance AI flags human shapes. Mannequins slid under its radar. Kayla and Earl ducked behind a different island. Marcus, face still puffy, lurched out of housewares holding a weighted price gun like a mace. That video plus her 911 tape sealed burglary, assault, and felony drug theft charges. The county hauled it to evidence, but someone left a new torso on the dock the next night, facing the woods. Pay next to scrawled on his chest in Sharpie. Management now locks all bays at 11 p.m. and stores mannequins inside a cage. Kayla layers campus workload over second shift instead. But when overtime drags her past midnight, she checks that dummy's orientation every hour. Legends work, she says. Thieves sharpen them like knives, and night shifters learn to read which way the blade points. The mannequins still spin sometimes, even when cameras show no one touching them. But Kayla figures that's just ventilation drafts, or maybe a warning that someone, somewhere, still thinks the fourth knock hasn't been paid in full. She got a corporate gift card, a legal non-disclosure reminder, and 3 paid days off to take her nursing boards. The thief rounded the corner into 6 foot 3 inches of furious stock associate and dropped when Marcus swung. Sirens yelped beyond the front windows. Cruiser lights pulsed blue and red across the autumn displays. Earl knelt on the concrete, wrists zip-tied to a metal signpost the thieves had jammed into a pallet slot at the mannequin's feet. His head bled from a shallow scalp cut. The taller thief paced near him, talking on a walkie about 2 minutes on pickup. Kayla slid through the bay door's shadow, gripped the paddle like a bat, yanked Earl's pepper spray from his belt, and stepped into the light. One burst hit the thief square in the face. He dropped the walkie, howling, hands to eyes. The taller thief's head snapped up. "Find the other one," he ordered. The partner jogged back toward produce. The compressor shut off, plunging the dock into a hush broken only by distant freezers. Inside, their white box truck parked coincidentally where Kayla always left her Tacoma. They found dozens stolen catalytic converters, bolt cutters, zip ties, and 3 fiberglass torsos painted with BLM for Brakeman's Lantern Men, the fake tour company, printed on their jackets. Each torso is missing arms, so it could be rammed onto a stake and spun easily. Perfect for jump-scaring tired warehouse staff. The thieves were somewhere between them and that phone. Kayla half-dragged Marcus towards sporting goods, the only aisle with a panic handset that rings straight to county dispatch. Halfway there, the store's overhead PA hissed to life with Earl's drawl announcing, "Store clearance associates to receiving." The real Earl's belt was still on that jack. A motion sensor clicked and floodlights flared, painting two feral cats as they bolted across their dumpster slats. Footsteps scraped tile. Two voices, one giving orders, one wheeling something metallic. She peeked under the shelf. Mannequins on rolling clothing carts, 4 of them, torches and bolt cutters tossed on top. The taller thief parked a cart beside the locked pharmacy gate, climbed onto a torso, and punched an impact driver into the padlock. His partner uncoiled a small propane torch, ready to melt hinge pins if the driver stripped. When Kayla turned back, the mannequin had pivoted to face the trees, arms still missing, torso twisted. But if it's turned toward the trees, you'll lose merchandise before sunrise. New hires laugh until their first pallet goes missing. Kayla admits she's spun the dummy around more than once, just in case. 4 days after the incident, she sent me a 30-minute voice note and asked if I could polish the audio for state police. She hasn't talked about it since. Kayla works with one other associate, Marcus, in produce, and an aging security guard named Earl, who paid to patrol, but mostly naps in his pickup. She clocked in a few minutes after 10 on an October Thursday. Freight was light, so Marcus stayed in Gary, Earl disappeared, and Kayla settled into health and beauty. About an hour past midnight, the night shift phone crackled. Earl's voice, raspy and half asleep, asking her to come to the back door because a driver needed a signature. She radioed confirmation, parked her pallet jack, and walked the long fluorescent corridor to receiving. The dock light over Bay 2 glowed red, indicating the roll-up door was unlocked. No tractor trailer pressed against the bumper plate. Just cool air wafting in, and a mannequin positioned on the concrete lip staring inward at the merchandise cages. Someone had propped a blank freight invoice against its chipped shin. An Earl's Guard belt radio, still clipped, lay draped across the handle of an empty pallet jack. Fresh mud prints in size 11 Vibram lugs tracked away from the door, dragging something heavy toward the tree line. Kayla's first instinct was that Earl had stepped outside for a smoke and gotten spooked. But the belt on the jack didn't fit. Fight, flight, or lock the door, she shoved the dummy inside, dropped the bay door, looped the chain through, snapped the padlock, and hustled toward produce. Corporate policy says dial 911 immediately, but the only landline is beside the locked manager's office. Marcus belly-crawled to the handset while Kayla crouched behind kayak racks. Kayla whispered 911 instructions. Store address, burglary in progress, suspects possibly armed. Kayla snatched a graphite kayak paddle and ghosted up the pet's aisle toward receiving. Kayla cut Earl loose with the pepper spray as belt clip blade and dragged him inside while the blinded man staggered. Deputies cuffed a groaning man near laundry detergent. Another squad car grabbed the pepper-sprayed thief limping behind the garden center after he stumbled into a rosebush hedge. Detectives believe the crew rode rural interstates robbing 24-hour pharmacies, spook skeleton crews with local folklore, zip-tie witnesses, torch the cage, and flee before badges came in. Kayla's dashcam footage showed the truck circling the lot an hour earlier. Mannequins visible in the cargo hold. Back dock mannequin didn't last the week. I pull the graveyard shift at the Greenbrier. Turnpike Toll Plaza, 3 lonely lanes of concrete on West Virginia Route 60. 20 winding miles from the nearest diner light. My friends think it's creepy, but the pay covers grad school tuition, and my whole job is giving exact change with a smile. Nights usually tick by in a haze of diesel fumes, static-washed country radio, and the rhythmic ping of coins hitting the plastic basket. The only break in routine is the plaza-esque bit of roadside folklore, the toll booth lurker. Legend says that back in the 70s, a long-haul trucker named Red Malone crashed on the ridge after throwing his last dollar into lane 3. I locked the drawer, glanced at the monitors. Camera 5 covers the rear walkway outside, but its feed flickered snow. Back inside, I tested the bill. Real. I checked camera 4 to watch the Freightliner merge back onto the highway, but the feed cut out too, replaced by rolling static. Only cameras 1 and 2, the lanes themselves, still worked, both crackling with rain distortion. The monitor's timestamp read 12:50 a.m. Likely rainwater in the conduit annoying, yet common. I leaned out the booth window toward the truck. A male voice I didn't know drawled, "Operator, open the gate for a medical convoy." 2 men in rain ponchos stepped out. No dot vests, no cab credentials. Red strobes began flashing atop the canopy, and a pre-recorded alarm barked, "Security alert assistant en route." The men froze. Tire iron guy pointed at the booth, shouted something lost in diesel rumble. One carried a tire iron. The other dragged a heavy chain. Troopers radioed at 3:12. They defound the box truck, bogged in mud near an abandoned farm road. Tire slashed by hidden spike strips, likely their own contingency to stop pursuit. Greg jokes the real Red Malone ghost saved the toll receipts. But I think superstition nearly got leveraged into a perfect inside job. I still pocket spare superstitious quarters for charity, but I keep the beanbag gun closer, and when a midnight traveler drops a greasy bill instead of tossing coins, I check every camera twice. Legends live because we feed them. Thieves live off the crumbs we don't notice falling. And if you ever hear 3 caps on a toll booth window, remember, is not a dead trucker asking for change. It's a very live criminal checking whether you still believe in ghosts enough to open the door. 2 suspects fled into stands of pine but were corralled by K9 units before sunrise. Inside their truck, police recovered pry bars, wireless jammers, 4 fake maintenance badges for Greenbrier lift equipment, and 38 counterfeit license plates wrapped in Ziploc. Bag stools for a traveling diesel heist crew that had been bypassing toll lanes and siphoning. Truck tanks on closed service roads. They tested the jammers at small plazas like ours, using the tapper myth and a rainstorm to keep employees jittery and compliance-prone. The triple thump, a rubber mallet struck on cue to reinforce the ghost story. They ignored the basket, walked straight to the swinging exit arm, the one that blocks the downstream side when we cash only at night, hooked the chain around the arm mount, and pulled. Loud chambering echoed. He stepped back, cursed, and sprinted to the truck. The driver floored reverse, tires spitting slush. They vanished up the ramp as sirens crescendoed from the east. 2 state cruisers screamed down the shoulder, lights straubing rain diamonds. I raised the boom gate for them. One pursued while the other boxed the exit lane, spotlight scanning cornfield margins. Hydraulic moorings groaned. They were going to yank the barrier clean, open the plaza, and maybe funnel more accomplices through. Our radio network is closed. Only fellow toll operators and troopers use the frequency. Name? I asked. The only reply was the freight horn of a truck cresting the hill. He swiped grease-black fingers across the glass. 1, 2, 3 smears, and shouted, "Last chance. Open lane 2 and kill the alarm." That's when I noticed the poncho sleeve. Greenbrier lift equipment logo. Same company contracted to maintain our CCTV system last quarter. They'd jammed camera feeds from the utility closet, spoofed the radio to fake dispatcher IDs, and used ghost lore for psychological leverage. They probably intended to rip our safe 2-night drawers, hold decent cash until morning pickup. Headlights bloomed, bouncing off fog. The cab, white box truck, unmarked, rolling into lane 3, just like the others. A gloved hand emerged from the cab, holding a crumpled 5 and pinched fingers. Cellular bars 0. Something hummed in the wall like an overworked transformer. I walked the strip of pavement between booth and chain link fence, no debris, no branches. But I found 3 fresh half-moon marks on the glass, each the width of a silver dollar. They weren't greasy. They were printed in what looked like axle grease mixed with grit. The DVR rack lights, usually blinking rhythmically, glowed steady amber. Recording suspended. The bill fluttered purposefully down onto the wet concrete instead of into the basket. Before I could react, the driver powered forward, brakes sighing, trailer doors rattling loose against rubber stops. He never bothered for change. Drivers claim that on foggy nights you can still hear a gloved hand slap the side. Glass 3 times, demanding a refund for a trip he never finished. Old timers insist you should leave an extra quarter on the sill after 2 a.m. or you'll bust a tire before dawn. Again, 3 dull thumps behind me, harder. I spun, heart thudding, nothing on the walkway. The Kenworth driver leaned out, arms sleeved in reflective jacket, and dropped a greasy 5 onto the asphalt. No eye contact, just darkness under the brim of a ball cap. He lurched away. I never bought the Story security cameras blanket the plaza. The booth glass is bullet resistant, and we're required to keep the exit gate locked from midnight until 4. But people love myth, and I love quiet, so I let them chatter and pocket their superstition quarters for the charity jar. Last Wednesday started like every other. I clocked in at 10 p.m., relieved Greg, and skimmed the incident. Log 1 deer strike. 1 card reader error. Nothing more. Rain had been drumming the roof since dusk, turning the highway into a glossy ribbon of reflections. By midnight, traffic thinned to a truck every 10 minutes. I kept the booth window cracked for fresh air, watched sheets of mist unravel across the lanes, and flipped radio channels until I landed on a distant classic rock station. At 12:47 a.m., a blue Freightliner approached lane 3, headlights slicing the fog. It coasted slower than most rigs, as if the driver searched for something in the darkness. The cab stopped shy of the basket and idle bear. I hit the intercom. Evening standard tolls $4.50. No response, just low rumble. The driver's silhouette never moved. I repeated myself. Still nothing. That's when 3 dull thunks, not coin clinks, struck the window behind me. Exactly the rhythm old Greg jokes about. Tap, tap, tap. The Lurker's complaint. I told myself it was thermal pop from the roof panel, but my pulse kicked anyway. I grabbed a flashlight, stepped into the drizzle, and retrieved the bill. The glove print dark grease smear stretched across Jackson's face. At 1:05, another rig rolled up. This time a red Kenworth, also choosing lane 3, though lane 2 stood open. Same slow approach, same hesitation before the window. Pattern now, lane 3, grease-smeared fiver, triple thump. I closed the window, rang the on-call state police dispatcher. The line clicked, silent. I decided to step outside and inspect the rear walkway in case a loose sign or branch was playing percussion. Rain had thinned to mist. While I stood tracing them with the flashlight, my earpiece crackled. I bolted for the booth, keyed the deadbolt, and watched on camera too. The box truck stopped short. I slammed the panic button under the counter. It transmits on a hard copper pair separate from the phones. Plan A was obviously barrier removal. Plan B must have been me. Tire iron man jogged toward my window. I racked the pump-action beanbag shotgun we keep for wildlife threats and pointed it at the floor in his sight line. Officers stayed with me till dawn. DOT upped our graveyard staffing to 2 clerks, installed fiber optic cameras immune to jamming, and set steel bollards in front of the barrier mount. I'd taken the night security gig at Crescent Mercy. Medical mainly for the steady paycheck while finishing my criminal justice degree, but also because a hospital garage at 2 a.m. seems safer than most places a young guy can earn $12 an hour. Orderly swap stories about Deck 6 Sally, a ghost who's supposedly caught on camera wandering level 6, asking for a ride before vanishing. The legend's been around since the 1980s, when an oncology patient was found in her gown halfway down the ramp. DOA. New nurses like to spook travelers with blurry screenshots, but the footage always looks like steam from the AAA vents. He smiled too wide, said he was ICU transport, waiting on a patient whose family went to get security clearance. I leaned to see. Clipboard guy pivoted, blocking line of sight, said the patient was sedated, and I could confirm with Deck 6 Sally. The walkie gave a soft chirp that only I would recognize. Clipboard man's smile collapsed. He slammed the door. The Buick squealed, fishtailing toward the spiral exit. I floored the cart after him, radioing a plate and direction. Hospital police answered en route from ground level. My stomach dropped. He was quoting the legend like a password. Transport teams always radio ahead, and they wear reflective vests. His gown had no hospital logo, looked thrift store thin. I figured the myth survived because hospitals need cautionary tailies to keep staff from parking too far out on late shifts. At Deck 4, the passenger doors swung open. A teenage girl in pastel PJs tumbled out, wrists zip-tied, mouth duct-taped. The patient turned out to be a missing 16-year-old runaway, reported 3 days earlier in Chattanooga. Clipboard man, real name Dennis Cobb, was no nurse. He'd been trolling East Tennessee truck stops posing as a traveling medical tech offering hot showers and a crash space. He exploited the Deck Sally myth by focusing on hospital lots. People see a gown, they assume he belongs. Cart brakes screamed. I skidded sideways, nearly rolling. She wasn't hurt, just scraped elbows. And a typed script? If guard asks, reference Sally, they'll joke. Lowers tension. He de-printed the hospital's own urban legend blurb off Reddit and folded it into his routine. He admitted under Miranda that he parked on roof levels because new guards treat them like ghost territory. Nobody lingers long up there. 6 decks, 840 stalls. One guard me circling at a battery golf cart from 10 at night until 6 in the morning. At 12:30 a.m., I took the cart up, deck by deck, tapping my flashlight against each ticket machine to prove time-stamped presence for the logs. Engine shouldn't run more than 15 minutes or it trips the carbon monoxide sensor that pages engineering. I rolled closer, flipped the roof strobe for visibility. A man climbed out, late 30s, tall, wearing faded scrubs and a long surgical gown over them. Odd. Because surgical staff clock out long before midnight? He raised a clipboard, no badge dangling. Level 6 is rooftop, no walls, just chain link rails and sodium lamps throwing pumpkin light over rows of staff vehicles. Wind up there, taste metallic from brake dust. Cameras blanket every corner, and the E entrance sits 50 feet from the booth. So if anything did go down, help was an intercom button away. That's what I told my mom, anyway. Crescent Mercy straddles the south edge of Knoxville, wedged between the interstate and a strip of kudzu that swallows old rail spurs. Monday, 3rd week on the job. Started routine. Verify the lots were clear of visitors. lock the pedestrian gates at 11, run the first barcode audit. Halfway along row C, I spotted a Buick Enclave idling, lamps off, driver door cracked. I asked for ID and reminded him vehicles can't idle after midnight. While we talked, movement flickered at the Buick's rear glass. A figure slumped in the third row seat, face obscured by hair or blanket. Policy says no engagement call hospital PD. I nodded, pretended to log a note on my handheld, keyed the emergency code instead. The cart maxes at 15 miles per hour. Buick hit 40 on the down ramp. Clipboard man kept going, engine roaring down the spiral. Hospital PD cruisers boxed him near the exit gate. He surrendered without chase. Cobb's Buick held a fire department radio jammer, a stack of forged visitor badges. Cops walked him through burglary, kidnapping, impersonating medical staff. They found disposable zip ties in a glove box and a duffel of pills lifted from unlocked break room lockers. Corporate raised our head count to 2 guards per shift, plus mandatory badge checks on all after-hour scrubs. Sometimes the sodium lamps flicker, creating phantom footfalls in your peripheral vision, and I catch myself scanning for a Buick shape in the shadows. That clipboard grin still sticks, human, not supernatural, but scarier for it. I learned urban myths don't wake the dead. They lull the living. They give bad actors a script everyone already half believes. And in a parking garage at 3 a.m., the only lantern you need to swing is the glow on your dashboard, showing you re-low on vigilance. Most nights since, level 6 stays empty except stray leaves fluttering against the chain link.